Welcome to Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Krishan Mistry, who's the founder of AVM Solutions, based right here in Bolton. Krish shares how he became a business owner without ever having had a job, influenced by an entrepreneurial immigrant family in Bolton, and after studying engineering and software and producing published music. There's a real focus on customer problem solving, core values, focused learning and self-awareness by Krish in this podcast. It's a really good listen. If this is the first time that you've listened to Lancashire Business Stories, please hit the subscribe and follow buttons. Let's get to it. Krishan Mistry, welcome to Lancashire Business Stories.
Nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Thank you very much. When we start off with these podcasts, we always like to find out a little bit of a backstory about the people that we're talking to.
Okay.
And talk about the business as well. A podcast has two purposes. One, to tell people about your business, but secondly, to educate the listeners and the viewers about your business and about the challenges that you face, in the hope that they can take away some hints and tips to help them have a better business themselves and hopefully have the life that they dreamt about when they became a business owner. So let's start with Krishan.
Okay.
How did you go from leaving school or college and having a job to being a business owner?
Okay, I'll start by saying I've never actually had a job.
Brilliant. That's a great start.
So, it's either I'm just unemployable or, probably that I'm just unemployable. But I'll start probably from my dad and his brothers. So they were, I guess, immigrants who came to this country in the 70s. They originally, my heritage is Indian, so
okay.
They were from India. My grandparents moved over to Kenya to work on the railway lines for the British government. And when there was a bit of upheaval in Africa, my granddad got a British passport and he was able to move over to the UK. Then he eventually brought his kids over, and they were all in one house, and they all had different jobs, and they basically saved money up to be able to do what they wanted to do. And essentially, I always start with that because that's the reason why we're here. So it was my dad and his brothers. They were all entrepreneurial themselves. They were all strong-minded. They all wanted to do their own thing. So they all set off and created their own enterprises. Yeah. But when they came home, they had a really, really strong family bond. Yeah. So they all lived in the same house, but they were all doing their own thing.
What kind of businesses did they have?
So my dad, they all started in a shop, actually. Right. So they bought a bit of business, converted it into a shop, and they started operating as a shop. And then eventually, as they did that, they started to find a passion. So one of them, my dad ran nightclubs, pubs, and restaurants in Bolton. There was my uncle who was big into cars, and another one who is in litho printing. So he was right early stages of printing back in, I guess, the 80s. Yeah, and right now, most of those businesses are sold. We're left with property, and the only one that still exists is the printing firm. Right. So that's still here, still going strong in Bolton. So that's my uncle runs that. Actually, my cousin runs that.
Give him a shout out if you want.
Yeah, Minerva Print.
I know. I've used Minerva Print.
Oh, okay.
Just on Manchester Road.
Yeah, so that's my cousin Mitesh who runs that.
Brilliant.
And then so I guess it started with that and my family, but I guess it was in the blood. I went to school at Mount St Joseph's, a local school here in Bolton. Went to college and went off to university because I wanted to do my own thing. So
what did you do at uni?
Studied engineering and software. So I'm a techie at heart, engineer at heart. And we did that and found a passion, actually. So if I rewind a bit, because we had the club, I was able to fill my interest in tech and music. So I was able to use that to learn how to DJ. So I saw some of the DJs there when I was younger and glass collecting when I was younger, but then I learned how to DJ. And from that took me to university. went off to university, and I'd say I studied hard, but I'd probably be lying, because I think I spent...
You enjoyed the university lifestyle?
Yeah, to be honest, I spent six days of the week DJing, so I was like the richest student out there, but I'd blow all the cash I'd made during the week on vinyls every month. Right. So there was one vinyl shop that made a lot of money from me.
So you still got a massive vinyl collection at home?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. So
do you still do you still DJ now?
No, I stopped that. Yeah.
Right.
I had to take a bit of a back step after COVID. But in our office actually we've got a DJ setup as well. Hardly use it.
I'm going to have to come in and visit the office.
Yeah.
I've honestly, over the years, I play a bit of guitar, and just for my own enjoyment, I wouldn't really thrust it on anybody else, because that'd be awful. But I've always had an interest in music, and I've just never been able to get my head around how to actually DJ properly. So you might have to give me some lessons at some point.
Yeah. It's all auto now. You can, with these software and the hardware that's available nowadays. But
so you left uni with a degree in engineering?
Yeah, so I specialised in acoustic engineering only so I could get access to the studio, because I then diversified from DJing into producing music. I managed to get probably about 35 to 40 songs published. So I was doing music for adverts at that time and pitching for music for adverts. And then when I finished university, I had a decision to make. Either I pursue that career and go down to London, or I come back home. But I think that the whole family bond in me was too strong for me to pursue that, and I came back home. And then from that point onwards, I went back into the family business. I was working with my dad in the club and the complex that we had.
Yeah, which club was it?
It used to be called the Bantry in the 80s, so that some people might remember that, where it's a rough nightclub in Bolton back in the 80s. But it was very popular, and then it went through a few different makeovers and facelifts through the years. So it ended up at the end being called Club Mystery.
Not one that I've come across. I'm not Bolton. Sorry, I'm not Bolton born and bred. I'm from Accrington originally. I sort of moved to Bolton in 2007, 2008, something like that.
Yeah, it was just as we closed it.
Actually, never been a great clubber, I have to say.
Yeah, it was. To be honest, I guess it evolved with my parents and their as they were aging, they didn't want to run a nightclub anymore. So it turned into more of a function hall for weddings and events. And it was a mini complex. So it had a nightclub / a big, large function hall for 600 people downstairs, a restaurant which was 2 floors, and it was about, I think, 150 seater. And then it had another function room upstairs and a snooker hall with big five.
Is the building still there now?
Yeah, so it's now split into different units.
Right.
But yeah, we sold that business probably around the time you came over to.
Yeah, whereabouts is that?
It's on Derby Street, just at the bottom. Okay. So that's where it was. So I came and started to work in there for a couple of years. And then we ended up selling that business, again, around the same time you came here. Yeah. And then from that point on, it was just a decision I had to make. I wanted to do something myself.
Yeah.
I always had the passion for music. I had passion for technology. I knew what I loved, and I just wanted to do more of that. And that was, I guess, the start of the journey. And it was one thing led to another. I guess at the very early stages, I was doing everything. I wanted to first DJ, then I started to buy stuff and hire my DJ equipment and lighting, and I had some projectors and screens. I started to hire that and managed to get a few customers that way, and it's just like a hustle, a grind at the beginning.
So you started off as a hire company, basically, hiring out lighting rigs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would say so. And then, and like anything, you set up a website, set up the logo, and we got the brand out there, and then I remember there was one evening I stayed late, so I was using one of our small offices in the family business that we had. So anyway, I was there late one evening. It was probably about 6:30, and I remember this phone call. It was a phone call from a guy called Andy Ramsey, Scottish guy. Didn't tell me what company he was from, and ended up chatting to him for probably about 45 minutes on the phone. Anyway, that customer turned out to be almost like a customer for the last from inception, 2008 to as in now.
Wow, so
there were
18 years.
Quiz clothing, yeah.
Right.
So turned out to be a ladies' fashion retailer with, you know, over 100 stores at the time. It's probably grown now. But yeah, I went on that journey with them. So that it started with, you know, we've got an idea of what we want to do in store and improve the experience. And then I started to help them from a design point of view. Yeah, and then that sort of grew the whole consultancy part in me. And I knew I was good at, you know, converting these ideas and turning it into reality. So it took me on this journey of consulting and, you know, designing systems. Then from that point, it was very much, this is a great vision, but every time we come to execute it, it's not what we're getting, you know, what we initially planned. So so then they asked me, could you project manage it? So, okay, I can take a look at that. And then the contractors were crap. So they were like, could you get your own contractors and we'll pay you and you subcontract it out? So I was, okay, we could do that. And then eventually it started to
It became a turnkey operation in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm probably oversimplifying it because there was obviously other customers along the way, other opportunities along the way. But I would say from 2007 to 2012 was us pretty much, it was me learning it myself as I go along, you know, picking up customers, more of a figuring it out as I go along and not really having any solid foundations to what I wanted to do. And then I would say 2012 was, right, I know what I want to do. I know what we're good at. And then it was doubling down, you know, we really started to employ people at that time, taking on apprentices. We formalised our services. So at the beginning, you know, you're offering everything. So you're everything to every man. But we then became very specific in what we wanted to do. We knew we were a great installation firm. We knew our USPs, you know, the whole consultancy. I'd say it was a very much a purpose-driven business. We would always wear the customer's hat and try and understand their problems and almost own that. So, you know, if a customer came up with to us or a partner came to us with a problem, we wouldn't stop until we've solved that for them. And that was our driver. I guess that was my driver. Yeah. And as I started to grow the team, that was the things I was looking out for in people who are recruiting. I think that same purpose.
It's really interesting that you say that because a lot of the people that we come across, business owners, have either a service or a product and say, we've got this great service or we've got this great product, who can we sell it to? Rather than flipping that on its head and saying, what problem can we solve for the customer? What do we need to do to solve that problem? And if you can look at it from that respect, as you said, you stand a much better chance because the customers don't want to be sold to. They want to buy and they want their problem solving.
Yeah.
So if you look at it from that respect, it's much easier.
Yeah, and I guess it was quite naive at the time. I didn't understand that. I never used to read books or listen, you know, podcasts much back then anyway. And it was very much figuring out as I went along. And looking back at it now, it's almost like a validation of actually it's kind of on the right direction, but I had no real kind of mentor to say, actually try do this or double down on this. So it was that figuring out phase, but at the core of it was always problem solving. And I think that's where the name came from as well. AVM was very much closest name to what the services we're providing, audio visual media. But it was very much solutions was the heart.
And were you always known as AVM from the very beginning?
Yeah. Cool. And no real major thought in the name either. I think that was another thing that, again, I listen to podcasts now and a lot of people say is, you know, don't spend too much time, you know, on your logo and what it looks like. It's about what you do afterwards. And I think, again, looking back at what I did then, I think it didn't put much thought into the name. It was, okay, what's going to get me decent Google rankings, AV, audio visual media. But the solutions was probably the only thing that was thought of because that was the thing I would hear from our customers. You know, you're there to solve our problems. So put the two together and then really just got out there. But Don't know. I think I had a bit of a knack of opening doors, even if I rewind from university of making music. But then, a lot of people can make music, but I was able to open the doors to publishers as well and to get that out. So I think I had that knack, so I was able to do that. But yeah, no real structure at the beginning. It was just, let's just figure this out as we go along.
So you started employing people. Mm-hmm. What's that like as a business owner when you haven't really employed people before, when you start to have to employ people?
It's scary because it changes. So at the beginning, we took on an apprentice and then we took on a designer, and then things change because you slowly get further and further as the more people you employ away from what you love doing and more around keeping the team motivated and, every so often reminding them of why they're there and why they're important. I think that was one thing. And then obviously every month you've got to pay the bills, haven't you? So that there's no getting away from that. And yeah, it's scary as well because you're figuring out as you go along. You're winning a customer, a new customer comes in, and before it was, it doesn't matter if you don't take a salary that month as long as it's your business. But then you have to change that mindset of now I'm paying, Chris, Dave, Jim, I'm not real people, but their mortgages now on their lifestyle, and they've got families as well. So it's a big responsibility, I think, and it forces you to grow up quickly as well.
I think so. And then there's, the other side of it is around leading and managing effectively. Mm. And a lot of the business owners that I come across have never had any formal training or even informal training on how to be a leader or a manager. And then all of a sudden they're thrust into a position where the business has grown, they're employing people, but they're accidental managers. They've no idea, what they should be doing. And some of them get it quickly. Others, it takes a bit longer. Others need support or training to do it. We come across, there was some research done. Apparently there's about 60 to 70% of managers are accidental managers, no formal training. And they get thrust into these positions and they've just got to work it out.
And I'd say a lot of responsibility of that comes from people in my position as well, people growing a business that don't really understand the fundamentals of it, figuring it out as they go along. Yeah. They think it's just you've been there, you're a great engineer or you're a great door opener, therefore your natural progression is to then manage a team. But one thing I've learned is it's not always the case. Sometimes they don't even want it.
No.
They like doing what they're doing. And I think it's a mindset thing as well, because growing up, you think, okay, that is the sort of linear progression, but if we kind of get rid of that stigma, it shouldn't be like that. That hierarchical way of thinking that you move from this level to this level and eventually become manager, director. It's not like that.
No, and in days gone by, it used to be the only way you could go. I remember, back in in the 90s, I've seen situations where, as a member of a sales team, the only natural progression for you was to become sales manager and end up in charge. And I've seen it happen in businesses where the best salesperson, by far, was promoted to be the sales manager. And they said they wanted to be the sales manager because they saw it as the only way they could earn more money. Yeah. And they became the sales manager, didn't know how to lead and manage people, upset half the team. Some of the team left. They'd had to hand over some of their customers to other people, so they weren't, they were upset. They ended up leaving as well. Yeah. So it basically wrecked the sales team. And that's down to the senior management team putting somebody into that position. Yeah. And without any formal leadership and management training. Yeah. And there are other ways of rewarding people without pushing them in. It's not really rewarding somebody when they don't want to be in the position that they're in, but they see it as the only natural progression.
And actually, it's the making them aware of it as well, because, we're figuring it out as we go along, and you've got a lot of books here, and that's one of the ones I'm reading at now. But yeah, I think it's then our job to then teach our employees as well, or, our team as well, and just make them aware that, it's not like that. And it's just a different way of thinking as well.
Absolutely.
And,
So let's take it back a step. Yeah. Timeline, 2012, you're working for Quiz?
Yeah.
Nationally?
Yeah.
In retail?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you're getting more retail customers on the back of working with Quiz.
Yeah, so we used that as a springboard, as a case study. We actually started to do a lot of work for Disney at that time as well, or just a year or two after. So we looked after all their retail stores on behalf of a relationship I had from one of the head of marketing at Disney. He was working for a firm out in El Segundo in California, and through that relationship I was able to open the door of looking after all the retail stores for Disney in the UK, and they had a lot of tech in there. You know, there's some great stories where they never had an opening time. They just wait for the first child to come, and then they'll have a whole opening ceremony where the music goes, the lighting follows the music, and all the screens start flashing. It was great, but it was great to be able to be involved in the design and the delivery and supporting of that.
Yeah.
So it led us to more retail customers at the time. That was 2012. I would say that took us to 2016.
Yeah. And were you already working in? Were you doing work in bars and nightclubs and stuff like that at that time as well, because of your background?
Yeah, because of the background. No, I would say we probably didn't. We had maybe a handful of bars or restaurant nightclubs, but it was mainly retail we were doing at the time. So I think the first opportunity creates another opportunity. Yeah. So it was in retail. We used to do the call now. They were owned by Sports Direct, but I think they went into administration. But we were doing a few stores for those guys. They were a footwear firm. Anyway, that took us to 2015, I would say, 2015 or 16. And then at that point, we were growing organically. Yeah. And it was great. It was a nice journey, understanding ourselves, learning ourselves, and just, again, figuring it out as we go along. Well, then in 2016, I'd say it was a bit of a turning point. I got enrolled onto a program with Goldman Sachs. It was the 10,000K small businesses. And we were one of the early cohorts doing that. And it was, I think it was a 3-month period where you have residentials. And I'd say that was another key turning point in sort of my career. So if anyone's listening, I would highly recommend doing an accelerator. I know NatWest do one and Goldman Sachs, but it was really good because you were thrust among other entrepreneurs and people starting the business, different points in the journey. Yeah. But you built a bond together. You were able to share the experiences, but it allowed you that headspace to be able to work on the business rather than in the business. And I'd say from that 2007 right up to 2015, 16, I was very much in the business. I was doing everything. And that was the turning point to actually step back and let's see how we can scale and create more of a scale of a business that doesn't just evolve around me. I did that, and it was invaluable.
What would you say the biggest takeaways from that for you were then, in terms of helping you to grow and actually start to scale? So rather than thinking about 10% or 20% growth, or even 2 times growth, thinking about 10 times or 20 times growth.
I think for me it was getting things down on paper. I think, I don't know if people might see the same as how I see this, but I'm very much a doer. So I've got an idea in my head. I want to go out and I just want to get it done. And by doing that, you don't document things and you don't document the process. How do you do it? And by doing that, you almost you keep doing the same thing. Yes, you're effective doing it, but it all relies on you. Yeah. So I think the learning from that was actually just take a breather. Before you just go ahead and do it, actually put it down on paper, document the processes. And that time that I spent there, we were able to actually work on our business and document everything down, understand the processes. And then it became, from that point, almost like another obsession for me. I've got engineering mind, so it was like, okay, I'm going to manage this. This is another product that I'm going to create, which is working on the
operating
business.
manual for your business, basically.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, we have a philosophy: if it's in your head, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So all of my clients will tell you exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a great proponent of things like whiteboards on the walls. So you know, if you've got something in your head, get it down on the board. If you've got a goal, then write it down.
Yeah.
If it's a dream, it'll always stay a dream until you've written it down somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's only then that you can start to create a goal out of it. So it's a great philosophy to have.
Yeah. And but yeah, so 2015, that was great experience. I was able to understand the business, document everything down, and it was the early stages of working on the business.
Yeah. How many people did you have working with you then?
Good question. Maybe 8 at that time.
Yeah. Did you have subcontractors as well?
Yeah, subcontractors as well. So we had a good network of subcontractors.
Yeah.
So, and then at that time, weirdly, after that, I was doing a lot of the sales and opening the doors myself. So I managed to win a deal with NEC in Birmingham. So it was to fit out the ICC building, which is on Broad Street, with LED. So it was and that was really early stages of the big billboards of LED. Yeah. We did a large project, and it was a big project for us, about probably 350,000. And I remember before that, if I rewind a little bit, I managed to meet someone along my journey who's now a really good family friend. His name's David Edwards, and he was the ex-CEO of Max Spielman, and real good friends with the Timpson family and Timpson Group. But he's helped me along that journey from 2015. So I think he saw something in the business, and we just had a really good relationship. He then stepped in as more of a non-exec director to be able to help whilst I was creating the process and working on the business. He was able to help me navigate that. I said right at the early stage, it was good to have a mentor. I think he really helped with that. And it was funny at the time, we went over to the NEC. I rang David in the morning. I said, "Are you free? Come to Birmingham." And anyway, I was passing. I picked him up, and if you ask him now, he'll be like, "Yeah, Chris was always like." He just used to ring me, and without any notice, and I'd pick him up. And anyway, we went over to the NEC, and we were meeting the procurement director there.
Yeah.
I'd worked on this deal probably 2 or 3 months prior, and this was the last meeting for him to do a last site survey, and just the final meet, I guess, face to face. And I took David with me. It was funny because we were speaking to the procurement guy then, and a lot of the conversation was directed towards David. So I think it felt like he thought that I was a sales guy, and David was a business owner.
Isn't that interesting?
I put it down to just probably an age thing. I was a bit younger at the time. I had a bit more hair. But yeah, it's just... anyway, we won that deal. And I would say that was probably the start of us really then saying, okay, we're going to create something now around this. And I'd say it was a turning point into really focusing even more narrow from installation down to knowing what type of installation we were good at. And that was the sort of workspace arena. Yeah. And that was the first point where we started to do a lot more work on co-working spaces, service office spaces, and just any space that allowed people to communicate effectively using technology. So I would say that point when we're working on the business, we refined it even more. We lost some customers as well because I think it's just something naturally you've got to do at the time once you invent yourself and you know what you want to do. And then from that point, it's 2016, we won the NEC deal. And then, we're at that point. I start working with David more.
Is he still involved in the business to this day?
No, he probably 3 years ago he stepped down, but just real close friends with him now. He's family friends.
So in terms of AVM now then, if you look at the kind of sectors that you're helping now, can you give us a sort of rundown on the sort of sectors you mainly work in and the kind of services that you're providing?
Yeah, so we're now, I would say we're a Workspace AV technology provider. So any space that allows our customers, to communicate effectively with their own staff and external customers using technology. And again, I think through that evolution of finding who we are, we no longer badge ourselves as an AV solution provider. We're a full turnkey technology solutions provider or technology partner, a business to businesses that we work with. So yeah, pretty much any space where you need to communicate, collaborate, and create a better experience using technology.
Yeah. So
it's crazy because when you work on marketing and SEO, you have to be really defined in what you do. So a keyword can pick you up, but in actual fact, when you think about it, there's any space requires technology. And actually, we've got a philosophy internally that technology should never be at the forefront. It's an enabler to be able to, for our partner to be able to achieve what they want to do. So in this scenario, you just want a podcast. You don't give a shit about the technology here.
I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious because I know you do podcast setups for people. So when I was looking through your website a few days ago, I sort of noticed that you do podcast setups, and I thought, oh, crikey, he's going to come in here and look at this.
No, I'm the complete opposite because. And I think this is why, right, the early stages when I worked quite well in the design side of things, it was very much technology should be at the background. What do you want to do? And I think that might be a bit of the commercial acumen that comes from my dad and his brothers, is that sod all this, the black boxes, and that is, what do you want to achieve, and how can I help you do that?
So that's exactly right. When we first started talking about doing a podcast, somebody said, why? And I said, well, and that's how it evolved. And as we were talking off air before we started, and I said, well, the podcast serves 2 or 3 purposes. The first purpose is to help the guests that we have on to promote the businesses. Yeah. The second purpose is to educate our listeners and viewers in terms of being able to run a better business and grow and scale more effectively through talking about the challenges and the successes that you've had. Yeah. And thirdly, it's to start new conversations with people. We will probably have never met unless I'd invited you on the podcast. So for me, having conversations with people is the first step in forming relationships and wherever that might go in the future. So it's an easier way for us as a business to start talking to business owners. So for me, the podcast is just one way of doing that.
And I think when speaking to you, when you first put that call into me, the thing that really got me intrigued and made me clear the diary to come and see you was actually, it was when you said the reason why you do this. It wasn't, I don't want to promote my own business. That's my job to go and build a business. It's how can I help add value to your customers? And you had that same way of thinking as well. You want to share these stories and share the experiences, because there's loads of people going through this journey. And I think it's even more important now with AI coming out. That way of thinking needs to change in people. So if there's any small nuggets that I can try and give as well, that's what I'm about. I mean, one of our long-term visions in the company isn't we want to be 25 million quid turnover business. It's actually we want to add value to 1,500 partners or customers. We call our customers partners, but we want to give value to 1,500 customers of ours, and that's our long-term vision. It's not financially a thing. So obviously you've got to look at the numbers as well, because that allows you to be sustainable and pay for the mortgages of everyone that you're providing for. But ultimately that's it. And the other thing as well is along that journey of working in the business, I think one thing that has really helped me is to really focus on what our core values are. And the easiest way I've understood this is to actually look at yourself. As a business owner or someone or a founder, starter, you've got to look at yourself. And I looked at myself and said, what was the thing that made me different? And I actually asked some of my early customers, like, why do you come back to us? And some of the things they said, like Andy, he said to me, I'll remember this, I just need to put a phone call in or send an email and you just get it done. You know, there's no coming back with 20 questions.
Yeah.
You just understand it, and you'll just take the problem away from me. And I think that stuck. And then again, when fast forward to 2015, when working on the business, it was very much what are my core values, which essentially then turns into the company's core values. And that, like today, we've got 6 core values. It's positivity, always be positive, empathy, so always wear the customer's hat, innovation, so always think outside the box, you know, relentless, as in literally just get the shit done, you know, and we'll do whatever it takes. And, you know, we've got stories of that up-teen times in that if something goes wrong, we've designed something wrong or something along the process that happens, we'll never go back to a customer and say, you need to pay more, Mr. Customer. We'll just put it right. And there's been times where, not completely down to our doing, but things along other trades along the way, but we've had to fork out like tens of thousands to put things right. But we'll just do that.
It's a great learning experience in that you never do that once. It's a great learning experience, but yeah, exactly. But the thing is, we will never tell people that. We'll never tell a customer we've done that. It's just it's got to be right for us. Yeah. And then I think where was I? I think I was on our values and culture. Yeah. For me, you know, culture is the foundation to every business. Yeah. And if a company doesn't have and isn't really visible in terms of what their values are, then it makes recruiting people more difficult because people don't understand, you know, whether they're coming into a business that shares the values. Yeah. And the business doesn't know whether they're recruiting people who share the values, because if you don't understand it yourself and you're not clear about it, you haven't thought about it, how do you know if you're getting people who are coming in and joining you? And I think it's one of the biggest challenges in recruitment is getting people who share your values.
Yeah, so kind of going back to that, and what we're saying is, once we understand our core values, and I think I mentioned a few. I think the other two were integrity. You know, just always be honest, even when nobody's looking, and caring. Actually, give a damn about what you're doing. So we've got these 6 things written all over the wall, and we did a bit of an exercise over the last probably 3 months. Was profile a lot of the people in the business, and they all had minimum 3 of these values, which gives you a bit of a validation that actually you're doing something right. Yeah. But even though I may have done that off the cuff, now actually writing it down and understanding, this is where I'm going to go into that book, Traction, by Gino Wickman. It's a great book. I mean, I've read quite a few different books, but there's nothing sort of revolutionary in there. No. But what I do like about it is that you're just saying that here's an operating system, and just go with it. And I think I really relate to that, because a bit like the logo and the company name, it's not about what, you know, finding something revolutionary. It's about just getting something and sticking at it and making sure your team around you are all aligned to that, and you all work with the same hymn sheet then. And that's what I really like about it. So
I'm sure there's a few marketing brand agencies who probably have something else to say about what we talked about regarding the brand. But I completely agree. You know, having a great operating system, we have our own operating system for our clients, and having a framework to work within. We talked about managing people and managing process and things is really important. And, you know, being able to see that and having a great foundation to build on, which is your culture, is really important. So how many people have you got now?
So we're 30 across 2 different companies. So we've got a UK business, which is our core business, and then we have a subsidiary out in India as well. So the subsidiary, we have probably 8 to 10 people out there. I think there's a few people being recruited right now.
They're doing consultancy, project management, installation work out in India as well?
So we are now started to some of the work out in that region, but previously there were an operating arm for AVM. We didn't see it as an India team, UK team. We saw it as one team, and you know we employ someone in Watford, someone in Birmingham, or they're in India. It doesn't matter, and we're all aligned to one time zone, and a lot of the guys that sit out there are designers, solutions architect, CAD designers, and software developers and DevOps.
Yeah, our software clients exactly the same. They have people all over the world, I think, now working with them.
Yeah.
And as you say, they're all aligned on time zones and stuff. So it works really well for them. And everybody gets together every now and again. I think that community is really important.
100%, yeah.
I have to say, for anybody who's watching or listening, if you get a chance, go and look at the AVM website and look at the team video that's on there, because it's absolutely brilliant. I watched it the other day. It's great.
I'll give a shout out to Nikolai at Title Productions. He's a local.
Oh, no, I know Nikolai. Yeah.
So he brought that vision to life for us.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Lock, stock, and
I must get him in actually on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, in terms of being a business owner, then 30 odd people. 2 different locations.
Yeah.
What's your biggest challenge, would you say, in your business right now as a business owner? Or what's your biggest focus?
I think it's the next ceiling and the next... so one is trying to break through that ceiling, but I've done that a couple of times. So it's now just reinventing ourselves again. So I think that's one big thing that's forefront of the mind. You know, how do we get from X to Y now next year?
Do you know what Y is?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. No.
There's a great book actually. There's a world-renowned executive coach called Marshall Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Who wrote a book called "What Got You Here Won't Get You There."
Yeah.
And for businesses who are not just growing but scaling.
Yeah.
'Cause growth and scaling are 2 different things. You know, growth is about putting 5%, 10%, 20% on. Scaling is about 2 times, 10 times, 20 times where you are now. And, you know, when you look at the 2 types of growth, you need to do different things.
Absolutely.
In order to be able to get that kind of growth.
I don't mind sharing things here, because obviously if it can help, you know, then that's why I'm here. So right now we're working on the business, and one of our key things is to really now start to scale, as you mentioned. We don't just want to grow organically as we have done. And it's a really interesting time right now. So I mentioned we have a software team. So 4 years ago, we created a software division to our business.
Yeah.
Again, we were always looking, you know, one of our core values is to innovate, to always think outside the box. So we were probably one of the first, if not the first, traditional AV company to have a software team and to build software as well as integrating hardware.
Yeah.
So we saw ourselves as the gap of bridging hardware and software together. And a prime example of this is during COVID time, when nobody wanted to touch things, touch panels, we created an app where you could scan your own device in a room and start controlling the whole room and personalise that space. And that was, you know, credit to our software team who span a sprint together in 2 weeks and delivered that for Bruntwood, one of our customers. Yeah. But yeah, so one of the things we're focusing on this year is doubling down on the software. So we're doing a big, again, number is a great thing. We know we're aiming for 350 active customers over the next 3 years. So we want to add value to 350 customers. In the next year, we want to get that to 250 active, you know, adding value to these customers. So that's one big thing. We know our turnover, we want to achieve 5.2 mil. And more than that, we want to be sustainable. So we've got the ability to be able to diversify as well. So one big thing is as mentioned, double down on the software. So we're doing a few internal things right now. So we're leveraging AI to build internal apps to help us work more efficiently. Yep. So we're doing a big integration piece now where we've selected Claude as our partner on the AV front and the software platform we're integrating, and we have our own internal system. So a big thing in the future will be owning your own data.
Yep.
So we've understood that, and we have our own ERP system that manages our whole business.
Yep.
That ERP system probably sits between 60 to 70% of all the data in our business. So from a quote is generated right through to a support contract being sold.
And was that ERP system completely custom designed, or was it based on a platform?
No, it's completely mapped on our processes. Cool. So, do you know, when we built our processes, we basically digitized it. I won't go back into that, but we did a few different testing with Salesforce and Dynamics, and nothing quite worked. So we built our own and with our own software team. But that gives us a bit of an advantage now, because as I was saying, 60 to 70% of all the data in our business lives within in our Hive system, which we call it. Then we've got 30 to 40% that lives outside of that. So we use HubSpot, we use what else do we use? QuickBooks, Financially, we use Monday.com, various different platforms.
That bolts on.
So there's a big piece of work we're doing now is to build a data layer that sits above Hive. So Hive is there, 60, 70%. We're creating a data layer that ingests data from Monday, QuickBooks, HubSpot into that, which then brings that down into our Hive system. So if we own 100% of the data that we have end to end, we're able to leverage AI better. And I think this is one thing where people should really start looking at owning your own data, because I know there's tools and MCP servers and tools out there that you can use to integrate, but there'll be a time when there'll be a cost on getting that data into your system. So right now, one of the big things we're working on is internally is bringing that data in. The other thing is we have built our own smart IoT building platform, and this platform is now we've gone to market with it. It's in over 100 buildings, and the product is called Digispace.app. And what that product does is help businesses reduce the carbon footprint. So there's technology in a building. You always see the same problem over and over again. If the TV's been left on, or more concerning than that, aircon's been left on all night. And if we can help reduce that energy consumption by turning things off or automating things, that's what essentially Digispace is there to help with. So one of our core focuses for next year is to really take that to market. And
so that's a very different space for you from traditional AV and those kind of solutions. And I think it's really important for companies to innovate. Because you've got a great customer base. One of the things we often talk to our customers about is when you're looking at expanding your business, what do? Do you try and go to new customers with your existing products, or do you try to go to the same customers with new products? And it's often much easier to sell an existing customer a new product than it is to try and find new customers for your products. Filling in the gaps. If you've got customers who are buying certain things but not buying other things that you provide, go and market to the same customers. If you're doing a fantastic job for them on one thing, they're more likely to buy from you. And it's 7 times cheaper on average to sell something to an existing customer than it is to go out and find a new customer. With all the marketing spend when you work out how much it costs to buy a customer. So it's really interesting. If you could offer your younger self a little bit of advice, and I was going to say before you went into business for the first time, but you sort of went immediately into business for the first time. So if there are people who are, younger people who are looking at maybe just starting their own businesses for the first time, what would be the best piece of advice that you could offer those people who are just on the cusp of thinking about starting their own business?
I would say don't get caught up in distractions. So it's almost like the 5 whys. Really get down to what you're trying to solve. So if I had to go back and give some advice to my younger self, I'd be saying don't get distracted by building this new website or this new working on SEO or you've only got so much capacity and headspace yourself. Focus that time on speaking to your customers and getting as close to your customers as possible. That real-time feedback. If I did more of that, I think that would have benefited me when I was a lot younger. And then probably the second thing is read more books as well. I only started reading probably about 3 years ago. But prior to that, I never used to read. But read more books and actually have a sort of, everyone in business seems to have some sort of ego, but try and drop that ego and try and learn.
Yeah.
Humble yourself and always be open to learning new things.
Yeah.
And that's going to be so much more important in the new world we're going into with technology and AI. Yeah,
I think for me it's absolutely vital, and whatever stage of business you're at, whether you're just starting out or whether you're just on the cusp of something larger, to remember that in order for your business to change, first you've got to change.
100%
is absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
And if you want your business to grow, you've got to grow.
Yeah.
Otherwise you become the bottleneck for your business.
Yeah.
What about, in the, there are lots of businesses out there, and we're in relatively uncertain times, and I think there's always uncertainty in the world, whatever stage we're at now, just particularly. But what would be your best piece of advice for existing business owners who are out there, who've probably got their own challenges, they want to grow, they're not quite where they want to be?
Yeah.
What would you say to those people who are out there?
I think taking a bit of time as well, even if it's going to a coffee shop 1 day a week to work on the business, I think that's important. That was a real turning point for me. And leveraging the things that are around you as well, but never lose focus on what your purpose is, because you can get. It's very easy to get distracted in this day and age. A new thing comes out, a new AI comes out, a new software comes out, chasing money, whatever. As long as you've got that purpose and you stay true to that, I think that's going to be even more important as we start.
I think there's one word that encompasses that, which is focus.
Yeah.
Keep a clear focus on what it is that you're trying to do, why you exist, why you're doing what you do. Because times are going to be tough, and if you can keep that focus on what the end goal is, what the dream is, the reason you went into business in the first place, then you can work through the tough times.
Yeah.
It's when you go, ooh, butterfly, and there's all those silver bullets out there that you get distracted from your core.
That's the key thing, is distraction, and there's always distraction, no matter where you are in your journey. And right now, in this economy, AI is the new distraction. There's a new thing come out. Oh, should I lean into this? Should I lean into this? Actually, just stay focused on what you do. People might be producing content out there that's just AI generated. If you be true to yourself and generate more human content, I think that's where the benefit's going to be, being more you. Yeah,
definitely. You've mentioned Traction and EOS. Any other good books that you've read, or videos, or people that you listen to, podcasts that you listen to?
I don't tend to. I think I'm quite... it's an interesting question, actually. So I'm quite actually spiritual. I hate using the word spiritual, but I like to explore my heritage, not Hinduism, but pre-Hinduism, like Vedanta, and why we all exist. And I think that's important as well. I think that's a big part of me, actually, uncovering the fundamentals of why we exist. I've always been into that. I did physics at college and further maths, and I've always been looking up at the stars, and I think that's what took me into engineering. But I think a big thing for me is understanding why we exist as well.
You know what, I think fundamentally there are a lot of people out there who are sort of surface level when they're in their life and the business, and they haven't really dug down to that extent. And it's something that's really important for me as well. I think to be truly happy, you've got to have an understanding where you've come from and where you want to go.
Yeah.
And happiness isn't surface level. It's not having a successful business. It's what you want out of life.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about, if I can help other people to be happier, then that's my reason for being.
Yeah, it's the purpose.
Yeah. I mean, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd carry on doing what I do for free
Yeah.
because I know I'm helping other people.
Yeah.
You know, and you want to help other people in whatever way that you can. And I think that's really important. And I think the other part of that is it comes back to your values. The more you understand your reason for being, the more you will understand your values, and the more you can be in line with your values in terms of moving forward.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the biggest challenges for people are when they're either they're told to do something, or they're forced to do something, or they're doing something themselves because they think it's, you know, the best way to get a result that doesn't align with their own values.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's really important, and I think that's one of the things that I've always been true to, is like backing myself and believing in, you know, what I do is right, because I think everyone's got an internal compass.
Yeah.
And you've just got to look inwards sometimes. You know, everybody's looking outwards, but actually sometimes take a deep breath and look inwards, because I think your answers are all here. It's just people, the environment around them don't allow them to think that way.
And I've always found when I'm not feeling great about something that I've said, done, thought, or whatever, the first place to look is internally.
Yeah.
You know, have I done something that aligns with who I am? And usually the answer is no, and that's why I'm feeling like I do.
Yeah.
So, and you can put that right. You know, nobody's perfect. Yeah. Everybody does stuff that they probably regret at some point, but it's getting to the stage where you understand that.
Yeah.
You know, there are some great books that out there on self-talk,
self-awareness,
and self-awareness. And you know, we often talk to people about whether they're above or below the line. You know, above the line is taking accountability and responsibility and ownership of your actions and your thoughts and the deeds that you do. Below the line is just using blame and excuses and denial. Because anybody who's below the line, you've got a victim mentality.
Yeah.
You know, it's always somebody else's or something else's fault. Whereas above the line, you can do something about it. Yeah. But the biggest trick is actually hearing yourself talking. It's actually recognising those feelings. And when you feel angry or when you feel upset at something, it's just sitting there and going, isn't it interesting that I feel like this because of that? And as soon as you start saying, isn't it interesting that I feel like this? All of a sudden you start hearing yourself talking about stuff, and you can do something different. And it's that self-awareness and self-recognition of that's really important. It's the most powerful force in the world, but the stuff you tell yourself.
That's the starting point as well, because once you realise that you are not your body, you're not your mind, you're not your thoughts, you're the witness behind it, you realise that, well, okay, if you're the energy behind it and the witness behind all of this, then what I have and what you are is exactly the same. Every single religious book tells you we're all the same, we're all connected. Yeah. So if people realise that, then I think it'll put end to a lot of the things in this. But the problem is that we're all on the outer layer, and we all think that we are this body and then this mind and this ego. But if you really dig deep, and we're all just a universal consciousness, and we're all just connected, we're all one, and we're all on this earth to share that experience, I think it puts your mind at ease a lot.
I think we've got a whole other podcast episode there, Krish.
I know, yeah.
How do people find AVM Solutions?
Our website is AVM Solutions UK, or you can follow us on LinkedIn as well, which is /AVM Solutions. Okay,
and you're on LinkedIn as well as...
I'm on LinkedIn.
It's how we first met, Krishan Mistry.
Yeah.
We'll put all the links onto the show notes. People that listen to this, they might get in touch with you. Yeah. Krish, thank you very much. It's been a really interesting discussion. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Likewise, yeah.
And hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Two. Two. Yes, here we go. Let's turn that up there, and we're off. Welcome to Lancashire Business Stories. I'm your host, Paul Lim, and this week we're joined by Krishan Mistry, who's the founder of AVM Solutions, based right here in Bolton. Krish shares how he became a business owner without ever having had a job. influenced by an entrepreneurial immigrant family in Bolton, and after studying engineering and software and producing published music. There's a real focus on customer problem solving, core values, focused learning and self-awareness by Krish in this podcast. It's a really good listen. If this is the first time that you've listened to Lancashire Business Stories, please hit the subscribe and follow buttons. Let's get to it.